we've decided to do something different today, haven't we, Mary?
Yes.
So it's the end of the season, really. Still got quite a few weddings, but it's coming to the end of the 2024 season. And it's been a fabulous year. It's been really, really busy. But we thought we'd sit down and basically have a chat about how brides are feeling, what's been their worries, what's been on their mind. And there's been certain things that they've really worried about, haven't they? And talked about. And we just thought we'd have a little chat and see what we come up with and see if it's helpful for you guys. So I think the first thing that we found is a lot of people come in and they are talking about choosing a gown for a venue, haven't they, Mary?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you come in with this theme in your head, or like a plan or a vision, which is great. But some brides feel so much pressure to stick to that when you don't need to.
No. And I think what we always find is the dress is almost a bit of a cliche, but you find the dress because the dress finds you, and it doesn't really matter the venue that much. Obviously, sometimes it does it is a factor, because if you're on a beach, you might not want a really heavy dress.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But it's when someone's looking at like a specific style or a specific idea that's in their head that they're like aiming for, and then they're really disappointed when they're not actually liking those dresses on. But as long as you love that dress, it will work anyway.
Absolutely. So, often I think there's this thing that you should have, you get married in church, you should have an A-line dress, you should have straps, you should have this, you should have that. But it's how you feel in it, and it doesn't matter. I mean, accessories can play a massive part in that.
Exactly.
So, if you get married in the cathedral and you want to wear a really super fitted dress, we've had brides get married in the cathedral and they've had no train, but they've had a big veil. And it's just making sure that you find the dress that you feel really, really you in.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that makes you feel that little bit of excitement that, every bride should feel in their dress.
But coming on from that, the biggest thing that we find is this yes moment, the one. And it's really, really, it's something we really are passionate about talking about, because it can be completely debilitating to a bride, can't it?
Yeah. So a bride is there in the fitting room putting all this pressure on her to have this moment that, to be honest, it's fabricated for TV. I mean, it's not very often, unless you're a very emotional person, you're not going to have that, this is it, and the crying and the silliness.
The people that do that are usually, they have a very focused idea, they come in with a very specific dress in mind, they put that dress on, and that is it, because they've dreamt of it. But then that has a flip side where they do all that and it's not their dress.
Yeah.
But, generally, and what's really funny is that we have brides come in with their friends or their sisters, and they go, oh, I had that yes moment. And you're thinking, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
It took a while. And I think it's that pressure to kind of look in the mirror and know it's the one. And it just, it's a lot. You're trying a lot on. And it's a journey.
It gets so confusing trying on these dresses. And so what we find is it comes down to 2-3 dresses.
Yeah. And they can be completely different to each other.
Yeah, a lot of the time they are complete opposites. But it's then going home and having that daydream moment. Because you will find that one just keeps repeating or popping back into your head more than any of the others.
And that's the thing which, I think we're a little bit different to a lot of shops in that we don't put massive pressure onto brides, because even going for a coffee, so, over the years we've had brides where they've had a really narrow time scale and they're really panicking and they're like, well, I've got to say yes. And you're like, well, go away, have a coffee, because an hour isn't going to make a difference.
Exactly.
Or, equally, you might be getting married this time next year or in 2026. And you can still just go away, and leaving the environment gives you that moment to kind of really think about it.
Exactly. It just gives you that moment of clarity without, like, Sally or I sat there or everyone else sat there expecting you to pick it.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
lets you have that decompression
Yeah.
and that step back.
It's such an important thing.
It really is. Because,
yeah,
well, you don't want to be stuck with a gown that you
No.
don't actually love.
you know, don't get me wrong, people do say yes on the
Oh,
day,
yeah.
and that happens obviously, but you know, it's usually people have been a few shops that do that. Sometimes it's the first shop and they just know, and that does happen. But the more common thing is that people need that time,
Yeah.
and you know, don't feel pressured if you know not. You might not be coming to us, you might be going to other shops, you might come to us, but don't feel pressured because you've booked that appointment and it's taken you 3 weeks to get that appointment, or 6 weeks, or you've paid for the appointment. We don't charge, but you've paid for the appointment, and you're then going, well, I'll have to pay again to have another appointment, and I need to make my decision today. Do not feel that, because you can always come back. And most bridal shops, like we do, try and build in a return appointment during the week or on a Saturday with short, because you don't need as long. You might be trying 1 or 2 dresses on. So they're shorter appointments, which means you can come back. We've had brides literally knocking on our leave and come back half an hour
later. Exactly.
and going, yeah, I know which one it is. Can I try it on again? I love it. So, but equally, you know, don't put yourself under too much pressure with that, because, and I know some shops do. Some shops are all about the sales, so they we've heard horror stories, so that they go, oh, it's the one, and they're crying, and you're thinking, I've never met you before, why are you crying? Or you know, oh, you have to order because
oh, your time's running out,
Yeah.
and all of this. And
and
yes, times does come
Yeah.
into it. It's like, you know, our lead times are quite long, but there's always time to go for coffee.
yeah, and what I always say
Always.
is, if your appointment's in a Friday or a Saturday, no dress is being ordered till the Monday, because the bridal designers don't work weekends.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always that 24 hours, 48 hours breathing room. You can ring the shop on the Monday morning and say, oh my God, I love that dress.
Yeah.
Can I come back? Obviously, there's certain reasons that doesn't work, as if it's a sale dress. Now, if you are falling in love with a sample dress and we only have one, or the shop only has one, and you've got other appointments booked in afterwards, then that puts a bit more pressure. But usually that pressure helps you decide,
Yes, yeah.
doesn't it?
Well, exactly. You know, with the sample gowns, you are... I hate a sample gown. I hate a sample gown. I hate it when a bride falls in love with a sample gown, because then I'm like, I can hide it behind a few dresses, but obviously, you know, we can't take them off
No.
unless you do pick it. And I hate that
Yeah.
we've got to even
Because
give that option.
it's
but
a bit more of a sale,
It
then,
is,
isn't it?
you know,
And it's
it's-
not the way we work.
Exactly.
But equally, yeah, I mean, yeah, and do you know what? The law of sod is the next person comes in and wants
I
that dress.
know.
And it might have been here on the sale for 6 months and nobody's looked at it, and then you have 2 brides that want the same
That want
dress.
the same dress.
So that's always a bit of
I
a
know.
torture for us.
I mean,
isn't
to
it?
be fair, some of our dresses that we've chosen to move out the shop, some of them we still can get full price.
Yeah.
So it's not so bad.
No.
But sometimes when it's a dress where
It's
I'm
been
like,
discontinued.
they've been completely
Yeah.
discontinued, and we're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got to
Yeah.
message the bride from before that didn't choose it. But then,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
there's a
but
reason
that
for
doesn't.
everything.
Yeah, that doesn't happen too much.
No, it doesn't
does
happen too often.
But
so
yeah,
it's not
so-
so bad.
You know, it's just really important to kind of have a moment, and also leading on from this. I mean, we're jibber jabbering, but don't bring too many people with you, because it becomes really confusing. We have seating for 3 plus the bride, and we do this really on purpose. I mean, it's a tiny shop, so it's a little tiny boutique. But what we found, actually, in the pandemic, it worked really well.
It was
I hate to say it.
fantastic. It was lovely.
I hate to say it, girls, but when brides came with just their mum or their sister
Yeah.
or their gran or their best friend,
Yeah.
it made life a lot simpler, because you didn't have too many opinions, because everybody's got different taste.
Exactly, and no matter how close you are to the people that you bring with you, there will always be one that doesn't like what you like, but can't see that you love it, and then that immediately puts a dampener
Yeah.
on a dress that in the fitting room you were feeling really connected to, and then you come down and there is always going to be one person that's like, oh yeah, but I don't like this about it, and then you question it then, even though it was, there wasn't a question about it before. So yeah, the less people,
And also, I
better.
think it's really lovely to have your dress as a complete surprise on your wedding day to your bridesmaids and to everyone. So that moment that the photographer captures when they see you for the first time is genuine, because really you can tell the ones that aren't. It's really lovely. It's a really special
such
thing.
a nice thing.
Both Mary and I did that, didn't we? And honestly, I think it's really special just to bring your most loved person with you, most trusted, and it's not always your mum. I hate to say it, it's not always your mum. Because mums can have very strong ideas of what they think you should be in, and you want to please them, and you might not get on with them in life, but then you expect them to love your wedding dress, and they might be completely different
Well,
tastes.
your mum didn't like your dress, did she?
No. So she basically was completely unconvinced that it would look as I envisaged it, because it was a bit of a mix of things. So she phoned a different designer to find out if he could do my dress 6 weeks before the wedding. So obviously, but on the day she loved it, and she admitted that she was wrong. But you know, things like that, it does happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we always say bride plus 3, because it just makes the
It's a nice
appointment.
number, because it's usually mum, nan, or mum, aunt, and then
sister or best friend.
or best friend.
Yeah.
Some, someone that's really got your back,
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Yeah, and will think about you, not about what they'd like.
The thing is, a lot of the time they don't mean to think
No,
about what
no,
they like,
no.
which is what makes it more difficult, because
It's not being mean.
it's not being
just,
mean. It's just they haven't quite twigged that. Hang on, it's not my dress. It's her dress.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So so there's things like that which we're always the pressures. And I mean, I think that leads on as well to the pressures now with bridal because of social media.
Oh gosh, everyone's gonna see you, and that puts so much onto a bride, doesn't it? Because well, it's like when you got married, and when I got married as well. You didn't. Only the people that came to the wedding saw me and saw you.
Yeah.
But now it's this whole social media saga where it's got to be.
And there's content creators for weddings now. That's a new thing this year, which I know a lot of you girls are having.
Yeah.
But it adds another layer, and of course you're seen everywhere. It's almost like a celebrity. Every bride is a celebrity.
Yeah.
But then that gives you so much pressure, which is really quite alien to the way it used to be.
Yes.
So there's a lot more pressure in what other brides have, and you might see somebody that's got, and what we find is that there's certain designers that brides absolutely adore and will stalk. Now, you will see other people in your dress. That is the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're international designers, and you might see other brides. So, and some girls love it, and some girls don't like that at all. So, you're never going to get a dress unless you have it bespoke, which you can do with the Jesus Pira, or you do different things to it. So we do bespoke in here. We do different details. We have an amazing seamstress that is an absolute goddess at sewing. Shout out to Suzanne. And we do all that in house.
Yes,
but generally, the pressure from social media now.
Yeah, and it's as well. It's the worry for a bride that she's not going to get it right.
Yeah.
But as long as you love it, it will be perfect.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, say, if someone you've brought with you thinks, or it doesn't matter what it looks like on somebody else in a picture that you've seen on Instagram or on Pinterest.
Yeah.
What matters is how you feel in it, because when you feel amazing in a dress, you glow.
Yeah.
You really do. You've got that twinkle in your eye, and
yeah.
you can feel the excitement coming off you, and
Yeah.
that's what you're looking for in a wedding dress, really.
Yeah, and don't worry about anyone else, which is easy for us to say.
It is easy for us to say.
But honestly, it's all about how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, what else were we going to talk about? There's so many things. Oh, yes. So I was going to say about alterations. I kind of touched upon it a little bit then with Suzanne. So we do all our alterations in-house. We've done it since the day we opened 16 years, maybe 17 years ago, because it's really important, the fit. It gives me a bit of a twitch that people have to go buy their dress and then take it somewhere else, which so many bridal shops do.
The thing is, you buy this dress and they're not cheap creatures, are they really?
No,
you know, they're not cheap.
No, there's the
You
most
buy
you're
this
ever
dress-
going to spend on a dress.
On a dress, isn't
or
it?
any outfit.
Exactly. And you get this dress, it comes in, some of them are made to measure, which is great, because then, you know, we've usually only got like the hem to do it and things like
tweaks,
that.
yeah.
Little teeny tiny tweaks. But obviously a lot of brides lose weight and things like that. And then to have this dress arrive and then have to take it away
And find somebody
and
to do
find
it.
somebody to do it is just, it's baffling to me, because then you're passing the buck to somebody else, whereas here, obviously,
Yeah. I mean, I wish we could
it's
just
all
go.
our problem.
Yeah. And sometimes
Basically.
I would quite like just to be able to go, bye,
Yeah.
take your dress to see somebody else. But the flip side is that, no, you know, we've helped you on that journey, and we want that dress to fit perfectly, because at the end of the day, it's our reputation on the line as well,
Exactly,
because if a dress doesn't fit quite right, then, you know, people are going to go, oh, they didn't do that very well. So it's really, really important, and it's something that, you know, if you go to it, is, you know, we're very open. We know people go all over the place, but always ask them about alterations. If they do it in-house, if it's with them, if it's with a seamstress, if they know what they're doing, because sometimes bridal shops do have seamstresses, but they're not particularly experienced or whatever. So it's really important to kind of talk about that with the shop, because also, you know, get an idea of the pricing as well, because, you know, alterations packages vary widely, massively.
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, we do charge for alterations, which is relatively new, because we've had so many brides losing a lot of weight or gaining weight, and changing their shape, and needing a lot more than we plan, and then that is a very difficult conversation to have. Whereas now we've decided that it's going to be, we give a package, we tell you exactly what the alterations are going to be. So it's very clearly written, you know that from when you order your dress. So it's something to talk about and find out, because what we've found in the past is that brides have rung me back and said, look, I loved a dress with you, but I bought it elsewhere in Cardiff or whatever, because it was slightly cheaper, and then they've caught up a few months later, or they've rung us and said, oh, you know, can you do the alterations, because I've had alterations costs and they're so massive and I'm a bit worried, because I haven't budgeted for that. So always budget for your alterations.
Yes, yeah, as well.
Because, you know, they always need hems doing. Generally, it's straps, hems, if you maintain the weight
From the measurements.
Again, we try and measure as close to the wedding as we can. With some of the designers, obviously the Australian designers, it's a longer lead time, so we have to kind of confirm those earlier. Jesus Piero are amazing. They're much closer to the wedding day, and they tend to be sort of more made to measure. But yeah, so it's, you know, if you're going to do a weight loss journey, be really transparent with us as well, and say, because we've had a few shocks this year with brides losing lots of weight, and
to the extent where Sally comes out of the fitting room saying, I think I've hung up the wrong dress.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, I've had, and we've fitted them and we've done it, but it's been a lot more challenging this year than it has been. And it's great, you girls are doing it, you're killing it. Those personal trainers are earning their keep. But yeah, so it's really important to talk about alterations with your bridal shop, even if it isn't with us.
Yes, yeah.
So that's a really important thing. So I think we might we'll do this again, I think. We might do a bit more, but what we'll do is sign off for now, and thank you very much. And what I want to do is any questions that you have, send them to me, message me, and we'll get those answered. Cool. I hope this is recorded.